In this video, we will learn about the event module in Node.js by covering some of the methods available, and we will also build an application called weather application to explore more when it comes to the event module. Before we begin, what is an event? Well, an event is a message or notification that something has happened in your application. And this could be a user clicking on a button or data being received from a network or any other action that occurs in your application. Events are the key concept in event-driven programming languages, and this one plays a central role in Node.js. That is why we say that Node.js uses event-driven approach. So let's read more about this package or module. If you go to the official website, that is the nodejs.org, and you click on documentation. And let's click on version 19 and let's scroll down to look for event. And this one gives you detailed explanation about how the event module is being used. So what is the event module? Well, the Node.js event module provides a way to bind and trigger events in your application. And it includes a base class called EventEmitter and several methods for binding and triggering events. So let's get back to Visual Studio Code and let's see how we are going to play around with it. First of all, to use the event module, we need to import it in our application. And I have created a folder called event module. And make sure that you have Node.js being installed. And I'm going to create one file and I can name it whatever I want, and I'm going to call it as index.js. Since we are going to use the native module from Node.js, we are not going to initialize our project as npm. With this one, we can use any module from Node.js because we have Node.js being installed. So let's go ahead and require the module as const event. The event module provides a base class called EventEmitter, which is the foundation for creating event-driven applications in Node.js. To create instance of the EventEmitter class, we can use the following code, and it goes like this. I will declare a variable called emitter, and it's equal to new the event dot event emitter as that. Once we have instance of the event emitter class, we combine functions to event using one of the methods called on. The on method takes two arguments, the name of the event and then the function that you want to bind. And it goes like this. So over here, I'll bring in the event, and when I make use of period, we have all these methods. What we want is called on. And this on, we pass in two arguments. One is the event name, and I can call it whatever I want. For the meantime, let's use what is called custom event or my event. Then we pass in a callback function as that. And inside here, we can console log any message. Now we have the event that we want to listen to when it's being triggered. So to trigger an event, we can use a method called emit. And this emit takes two arguments, the name of the event and the data that we want to pass to the function. So over here, I will say trigger event. And the first one is listen to event. So over here, to be able to trigger the event, we are going to use the emitter dot emit. and we pass in the event that we want to listen, which is my event. Make sure that you type the exact name. And we pass in the second argument. And this is going to be the data. So here I will say, so with this one, we have complete application where we are listening to event and where we are triggering an event. So to see the event being triggered, unless we run the application, so I'm going to open the terminal. And I'm going to use Node, the name of the file, as index. As you can see, we have welcome. As it stands right now, the purpose for this event is to console log welcome. It couldn't take the value we pass into event, simply because we are not passing in any argument. So to receive the data passed into the event emitter, we need to pass in an argument to the callback function, and for this it can be anything, and I will use message. So over here, I can go ahead and console log the message. So this message represents the value we pass in here. With this, when I save it and run the application again, you can see that welcome, Emma. So that's how we can create and listen to an event. Well, with this one being in mind, let's create an application called weather application to explore more. Let me comment out this, and I'm going to add a comment by saying weather application. Let's see how we are going to make use of it. I'm going to remove this one from here, or I can even remove all this code. And let's get started. Well, we are going to make use of class in JavaScript, and it goes like this. Class, and I'll call it as weather, and inside I'll bring in my constructor function, and here we go. Over here, we are going to make use of this dot emitter is equal to new the event dot event emitter. This code defines a class called weather that wraps the functionality of the event module. As it stands right now, the class has one method, and that is the constructor. As we move on, I'll be adding two more methods, that is the on and then the trigger. So let's explain the constructor function here. This method creates an instance of the event emitter class and stores in the emitter property of the weather class. This allows us to bind and trigger event using the weather class rather than directly using the event emitter class. The next method is going to be the on method, and it goes like this. For this on method, we are going to receive the event as we have discussed about, and then the callback function. Inside here, we are going to use this dot emitter, and we are going to use dot on, and we pass in the event and then the callback function. The last method is going to be the trigger method, and it goes like this. Trigger, and for trigger we need the event and then the data that we want to trigger, as we have spoke about. We pass in the event, then the actual data, and over here we are going to use this dot emitter dot emit and pass in the event and then the actual data. So now we have a complete application that creates event and listen to an event. So to be able to trigger these events, we are going to create instance of the weather. And it goes like this. Let's weather equal to new, then the weather class as that. And on this weather class, we have this method on and trigger. So first of all, we are going to make use of weather.on. And .on, we are going to listen to an event. And for this event, we are going to use what is called temperature change as temperature changed. Meaning that if the temperature change, we need to trigger the event. If you are using Ray API, we are going to get the Ray data. But as for this one, we are just mimicking API call. And the next argument is going to be the callback function. And we pass in the temperature value that we want to change as temperature value as that. And inside, I'm going to console log the temperature change. So I'll put it inside backtick and I will say temperature changed to, then I will inject the temperature value. Last step is we need to trigger the event as trigger, and it goes like weather.trigger and pass in the event name. Make sure that you use the same event name here as temperature change. You can name it whatever you want. The next argument is going to be the value, and I'll pass in 45. Alright, so now it's time for us to run the application as that. Let me clear it and make use of Node and then the index. As you can see, the event has been fired. Alright, that is it for this tutorial on the Node.js event module. Catch you up in my next video.